Hello.
Hi, Sherry. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. So anybody who's live joining us, just you can put a little comment, a hello. Sherry and I are going to talk today about self-love because we're both in the holistic wellness and nutrition and holistic well-being professional industry, and we are here to share a little bit about ourselves and also our story and what has brought us into this journey of deep self-love and self-care. In these times is one of the most important things we can do. As we know, we're being, you know, like just bombarded by a lot of information, false information, all kinds of. So learning to find our own truth, our own discernment, and taking care of ourselves is really, to me, the most important thing that we could do at this time. And I think Sherry would agree with that. But we're gonna talk about, yeah, our journey a little bit today. So thanks, Sherry, for just, yeah, for being here, for being present, for sharing this journey at this time.
Thank you for having me. And I love our conversations. They're so insightful, and I always love combining spirituality, nutrition, and just looking at the holistic person is really at the core of my passion. So, thank you for having me on to have the
Absolutely.
conversation.
Yeah. We had a great
So I
one
think
last week, and we're going to continue these conversations for sure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think you said so many good things there. And for me, I know that what it makes me think of is how my journey sort of began about 6 years ago now. And it really did start, although I didn't know it at the time, it really did start as a self-love journey. So a little background on me is that I sort of grew up learning that being selfless was most important. And so it left a little room for me to learn to love myself. I never really came to the realization that loving myself was important. I've always been very full of love. I love loving people. I love nurturing people with all of my heart and soul. But I never gave that love to myself because I truly didn't think it was necessary. It just totally was never on my radar as being important. But I've definitely come to learn over the last 6 years or so that it's actually at the core of everything that we do. And if we don't first start with self-love, then we are never giving what we want to be giving to the ones that we love. So it has to start with self-love. It has to start with, and when you find self-love, that's when, like on that journey to finding the self-love, that's when I believe, and that's where optimal health and wellness comes in, because when you're truly coming from a place of loving yourself, then you're making the decisions and choices for yourself that maybe before that would have seemed impossible or too out of reach. But here, from a place of self-love, you're making those decisions and they start stacking up on top of each other because you're coming from just a completely different place of truly wanting that well-being for yourself too, not just for those around you.
Exactly. I think as mothers and nurturers, I know for me, I was married for 20 years. I have three daughters, and I really gave my life basically to taking care of my family. But during that time, I kind of forgot about myself and, started having depression and drinking a lot of alcohol and smoking cigarettes and pot and all of these crutches, right? These toxic habits to kind of numb a lot of that. There's something big missing in my life, and it's me. And I didn't realize it because it was always, and I was an activist, so I was also like, out there saving the earth and saving, it's like I always, so I have this, in the archetypes, they talk about the savior complex, which is something that we have to just become more aware about what behaviors we're actually, taking on. And as great as it is to want to save people out there, it's like if you forget about yourself, then eventually you burn out, you depress, it just starts to accumulate until you crash. And I've had that happen to me a few times in my life, but I wasn't aware that it was because I wasn't taking that time for me. And finally, I started doing that. And it was when my mother passed away, actually, 11 years ago. And she, had no self-care, and was actually quite angry and bitter about life, about the world, and she actually, talk about really toxic behavior. And, the thing is, there's a lot of pain there. A lot of people who are using substances and all of that and abusing themselves is because they haven't learned self-love, and they haven't learned to connect with that self, that just, the inner child that needs that healing, that needs, hi, Chupti. Yeah, hi, Chupti. And hi, Tim. So we have our tribe here of amazing Purium people that we're meeting, and and that's how Sherry and I met. And we're not that far away from each other. She's in Montreal. I'm in Cowansville, which is like an hour and a half away. But yeah, we're talking about getting together soon because it would be great. Anyways, just to say that we're going off a bit on a tangent, but not really, because it's all connected, right? That's the
No, that's
holistic.
it. That's it. And what I really want to speak to is what you were just saying about how, where substance abuse can come into play is often because it's pretty much always because we're so cut off from ourselves, right? And that's it, because we're not looking. We don't know that we can look within and find what we need. So we're always looking for it outside of us. And when you're looking outside of yourself, then you're relying on other people and their own limitations, right? In their own lives. And people walking around not loving themselves either. And so they can't give fully to you, and they can't confirm and meet all of your needs and help you to feel your value when they're disconnected from themselves as well. So it creates this vicious circle, I think, of always looking to the external world, right? When really we have all the power within. And I mean, and it's not to say that connections with other people are not important. They're so important, as we're stating right here, right? With this beautiful Purium community that we have, and accountability and support and guidance, and just like-minded people, helping and growing alongside each other. Like, that has its place, and it's so important. But I think that first, in order to even be able to be open to attract that type of tribe, you have to be first loving yourself, right?
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Sometimes it goes through very painful experiences, like divorce, for example, where you're like, look, like conscious separation is very important. The more conscious you are, the more you realize that you signed up for this, and you are the one that's, making those choices. You become self-aware and self-responsible. And that all goes together, I think, with the self-love. And it's like, it's nothing against the other person, but it's just that now you're in another place in your life, and you're evolving, and you're choosing your soul journey, which has a much more depth to it than just the limited reality that a lot of people are still kind of struggling with. And I think that when we tap into our soul essence and our divine nature, we can't help but want to love ourselves and love others. It all goes, like, it really is from within, and you can't love other people if you don't love yourself, really, like you were saying. And we both talked briefly about mothers who didn't love themselves and then took it out on their children, right? And this is a big issue. And there's no blame. I've forgiven my mother for that, because I know she was in a lot of pain, and she didn't process her pain. She didn't know how to. So I actually have deep compassion for what she had to go through as a mother in those times. And in our society that doesn't value also nurturing and self-love and self-care and connecting with nature, and living a lifestyle that is in harmony with life and not against it, because we grew up in a very toxic world, a toxic society that, you know, pins us against each other, that's very, you know, competitive, that, you know, and when you're trying to find your place in that, in a time that's shifting quickly, you know, both parents have to go to work now because they can't make ends meet to, you know, to pay for their mortgage and their car and the whole, like, it's like, what is this society that, you know, what are we doing here like this? So I think we're the generation that like has been questioning, or these, you know, and the ones that are coming too are going even deeper with that. And then veganism, and, you know, how are we treating ourselves and how are we treating others and other beings on this planet? And this is what consciousness is about. It's like, once you do that, you're not gonna self sabotage. You're not gonna, you know, treat your temple as a garbage and throw garbage in it. And so that's where, you know, if people don't begin with themselves, they're not going to realize that they have to change from within, like we were saying. You know, it's really starting with ourselves. So it's not selfish to be self-loving and self-aware and self-conscious, but it's not being selfish. And so that fine line in our society has to be like busted through and say, no, you are allowed to take care of yourself. You are not only allowed, but you have a duty to do it, because when you do it, then your reality will be reflected, and your relationships, and that's how we're going to change the world ultimately, is by changing ourselves.
I love that so much. And yes, like let's talk about moms for a minute, because it's not limited to just moms, but I know that in my practice as a holistic practitioner, I so often women come to me who don't know that self-love is key to it all, right? And so they come to me overwhelmed, depleted, not just in their vitamins and minerals, but just depleted emotionally, right? They're exhausted. And they don't often, either they don't have a support system around them. That was my experience when I first became a mom. Or so either they don't have that support system around them, or they don't know to ask, or they have this belief that, you know, if they ask for help, then, you know, that goes against them somehow in their mothering abilities. But for whatever the reason, they wind up coming to me completely depleted. And, you know, if there's one message that I have in a situation like that for mom, it's don't wait until you're completely spent, completely depleted, because then you are of no help to the ones that you are so selfishly giving yourself to, right? I think that one of the biggest gifts that we can give to our family, our kids, but even if you don't have kids, the biggest gift that you can give to anyone that you love around you is to take care of you first. It's the biggest gift you can give yourself first and foremost, but it's also the biggest gift that you can give the ones you love, because it will absolutely overflow onto them when you are putting yourself first. And it's not selfish. It doesn't mean me before them. It doesn't have to be, you know, it's about shifting that perception, because I know at first that's how I used to hear that statement, you know, oh, so it would mean putting myself before my kids. Well, I can't do that. Like, what kind of mom does that make me? But it doesn't have to be me before them. It could be me too. And just that small shift in the way that it's said, I know that for me that was huge, because me too didn't sound as selfish to me as me first. And some people might resonate with me first, and that's great if you do. But I know that for me, that was hard for me to accept as a mom. But when I heard me too, that opened my heart and my mind to, okay, you know, that I can do without feeling like I'm giving less to my kids. And, you know, through the process, I found that it's made me a more present mom, you know, a more patient mom. You know, I've come to understand that it's not about creating these perfect beings. It's about guiding them on their own journeys, right? And the best way that I know how to do that is to guide them through actually taking the steps to doing that for myself, right? I mean, kids don't learn from do as I say. Kids learn from, you know, from showing them, from doing. It's completely shifted, you know, not just my health and wellness, but it's completely shifted the way I parent, because now that's a huge priority for me. Probably, you know, it's right up there with health, is that, and like holistic natural living, is that they learn self-love before anything else.
Wow. I have my little Stella who is who's an Aries. She's very strong and she's very
Oh my
self-confident. But she's very what you see little children like 6-year-old, 5, 6-year-olds, they do own the world and they think they're amazing and everything she draws, and it's like, and it's like, instead of breaking that, we should really embrace it and say, this is natural. Like this child, and I get the chance to have three, and the last one with a lot
goodness.
more consciousness because there's a 15-year gap between my second and third child. So for whatever reason, I was given this opportunity in my life to be a conscious parent this time, and to that's it, like embrace the even the tantrums and even everything that's happening, instead of punishing and rewarding, and this kind of like what we grew up with, basically our parents who had no clue how to parent. And I'm doing it part-time because I'm co-parenting, which is better for my life right now. And again, making your life the way you want it without judgment, fear of judgment or what others think, or like, even if your family kind of turns your back on you, you end up maybe alone for a while, but then you end up finding your human family, your bigger family, which gets you on a higher level, and it's not necessarily about your biological family, and that's when you choose your soul path as well. So that's something that I've come to kind of accept, that I love my family and but if they don't understand and I need to be who I am, then so be it. That's my empowerment, that's my choice, and my girls will be able to see that no matter what, my mother stood by her truth, and to me, that's the gift that I'm offering them, even if they don't necessarily get everything or what I'm doing, or it's okay, because I need to follow my own guidance, and I know I'm at peace with what I'm doing, right? So that's where integrity of the self comes in, and it's very important in these times, because as our consciousness is rising and more people are tapping into their gifts, like even telepathic gifts, clairvoyance, all of these things are coming online more and more. We're not going to be able to hide from ourselves anymore. We're not going to be able to hide. There's a lot of spiritual, popping up gurus everywhere that know everything, and it's like, okay, it looks good, but is that truth? Is that honest? Is that, is this person? And the vibration will be able to, it'll be known. It's just natural. So that's something also about these times. It's like the spiritual and the health and the, have they integrated? Have you been able to become one with your soul essence, with your higher self? Or is it all just a show, So it's like, it's a fine line, but we are multidimensional, cosmic, eternal beings. And I really believe that. I trust that. And the human journey is here to teach us how to be aligned with life, with the life force, with all beings on earth. And once we get that, we're going to be living our reality in a higher dimensional state. And some are pioneering this. I believe that that Purium is, that these types of new earth consciousness beings, people, corporations or businesses, or that's what they're doing, because they're following their values. And it's about getting rid of the old toxic divisive reality and going into a higher dimensional, and who knows where that's going to take us. I mean, so far for me, it's like, the more I claim that, the more I choose that, the more I set the intention, the more
Exactly.
it's just happening. And it's finally not getting caught in the old paradigm anymore, not getting pulled into that storyline and that reality, because quite frankly, I'm not interested in that reality anymore.
Well, that's it. And it's funny, this morning I posted about my youngest son, Nathan, who's 9 years old. And I talk about how, I joke that he must have been like a Buddha master in a previous life, because he was just, he was born Zen, and he like. I mean, I walked into his preschool class one day, and he was teaching his entire class during circle time how to meditate, and then how to do yoga, and he just has
Mm.
always had a very high vibe, and I talk about the connection to, his natural I mean, I was never big on meat to begin with, but I became a full on vegetarian while pregnant with him because all of a sudden I couldn't stomach any meat whatsoever. And
Mm.
he was born a natural vegetarian. He refused all meat from day one.
Same with
And
Stella. Same with Stella. Yeah.
it's it. So and I mean, at 14 months, he was stealing my green smoothies, and his favorite, like to this day, his favorite drink is coconut water. And I mean, he totally embraced from the very first order I made from Purium. He completely embraced it all, and I mean, he asks for all of the superfoods daily. If I'm like behind schedule or something, he's like, "Mom, I haven't had my power shake yet." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, go pull it out," and
Wow.
he'll I'll walk him through doing it, and he does it essentially on his own now, but. And I talk about that connection to high vibrational foods and how important they are, and how I believe we miss the mark. Like we don't recognize this. As a society, you don't hear any kind of talk about a vibration in our food. So I don't know if you want to talk about that for a little bit, because I remember learning about this, and it was so fascinating.
Yeah. Have you seen Kirlian photography?
No, no, I
Well,
haven't.
this is a type of photo that you can take that sees the energy field around the food. It does it with people too. It does, like you can see, but who is it? David Avocado Wolf.
Yes.
He has a book that there's photos of like superfoods and like cacao, raw cacao, and because and avocados, and but they show like even organic and non-organic food, and you can see the electromagnetic field around is so powerful, and like you see it. So again, seeing is believing, but when you start feeling it, like
Yeah.
that's where it gets interesting, because it's like you know it because you feel it and your body knows. And so that's a deep kind of kinesthetic knowing. And
Mhm.
then somebody can tell you something, but you know through your own experience, so you're not going to doubt. You're not. So the Aquarian age is about the age of knowing. Like we're leaving the age of belief, where we had to believe like the priest, the guru, the economist, the government, and we're going into an age of self-empowerment and self-awareness and consciousness, where we know that we're interconnected, and we're so it's like we're already there. It's just that now we're living in the crossroads between the old dying off and the new being birthed. And so we get to choose where we want to put our energy and our intention, right? So for me, it really is about setting that course into, my future self is thanking me for what I'm choosing to do right now, right? So
I love
every day we get to choose. And I've had some of the worst toxic habits like that we can mention, and I've tried every single drug I think that exists on the planet. Like I'm an explorer of the realms. And I've gone to the other side and come back like a couple of times, right? So I'm just like, okay, there's much bigger than this reality and this life. I know that also. Like that's my own experience, I've had near death and all these like shamanic trips, ayahuasca, and so I'm an adventurer, explorer of consciousness. And for me, I'm here to, embody this knowing and this wisdom and share it. And for those who want to take it, great. Those who don't take it. I'm at a place now, I'm 48 years old. I can, I'm becoming the crone, or the older, the older, wiser person that's what I feel. And so I'm just
I
like,
don't know about
okay.
older. I don't know about older. Definitely wiser though. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, older in the sense of, yeah, wiser, but yeah, and you can get older and get younger as you're getting older, which is what's
Yeah.
happening for me. Because I look back, like
That.
even when I had my first kids in my like early, late 20s, early 30s, and all that, and my God, because I was not happy and healthy, and like I looked like crap, like I was way overweight, I had dark circles, I was I was heavy. Like the world was heavy, and so I was heavy. And I think that that's also what we're seeing with a lot of the obesity, and the people are carrying these loads of their past, and and it's like, look, you can shed all of that. Like, we need to shed all of that. The
Mhm.
caterpillar and a butterfly, yes, you're the same being, but you're not the same. One eats its weight 1,000 times a day, and the other one just flutters around and drinks nectar and beautiful flowers, you know? So it's like, this is like an ancient, it's just a knowing that we are in a deep, deep transformational process right now, and we can embrace it, and we can like imagine ourselves as these, you know, amazing, beautiful beings that are sharing life on this planet with all the other beings, which is the way this is the heaven on earth. This is Eden. This is where we're going back after the fall. We're rising back into our true essence. And so this is like, wow, amazing times to be alive right now.
It is amazing. And I feel like it's never, also on the plane of knowledge, right? We've never lived in
Mm,
a more knowledge saturated time. It's just about knowing how to filter through so much of it and really getting to the essence of what,
yeah,
first of all, what your soul is speaking to, but also what the situation that you're in right now in this moment is asking of you, right?
yeah,
And I think that that's where we often can get caught up in not really knowing which information to follow and what's really speaking to us. And again, it comes back to that self-love aspect where when you're looking externally for all of your validation, right? This is where we can go from information to information and just kind of blindly jump in where sort of society or, your surroundings, whatever it is, or your conditionings tell you to go
right.
versus really tuning within and then coming from a place of knowing. And I think that same idea can be applied just about anywhere. It's the same. I once heard a quote that really resonated with me, and it was surrounding nutrition. And the question was, the question that was asked was like, how do I know if what I'm eating is right for my body? Like, if I just don't have that connection within, and I don't really know what everyone's talking about, this, being connected and knowing what your body is needing. Like, so how do I know, right? Because, there's so much contradicting information out there about what's the best foods to eat in essence. And the answer was really resonated with me. And it was this, it was, you don't need to know. What you need to do is to get into alignment. Get into alignment with yourself first,
Mm,
and then go and choose your food.
mm,
Because when you're coming from that place of deep alignment and connection within, that's when you're going to make those choices for you, right? And that's what we're
right.
saying here about why self-love is so important and so much at the core of where we need to take every action from. Because when we're coming from self love, we're coming from this really interconnected place. You can't love yourself and not be connected within, right? Like true love,
Exactly.
that's where it comes from. So to work, I always, I suggest it, I bring it into every aspect of every client that I work with. And, sometimes it can be seen as funny if they're coming to me with like a nutrition issue and here I am talking about self love, they're like,
Yeah.
they're a little skeptical at first, but when I make that connection and they start doing that work and applying those tools, then they get it, they see it, because you have to come from a place of self love in order to make any long lasting beneficial changes and shifts in your life. You have
Yes.
to love yourself enough to do it.
Exactly. That's where, and be gentle with yourself, but keep going, you know, even if it's you're not in the perfect, like you can fall back a little bit, but you've still taken 3 steps and maybe you took one back, but keep going, because that too,
So
like
part
I've
of
done over and over again, is like you start when you're too hard on yourself, you know, and moments of like feeling like giving up and all that, you know, I think a lot of us have gone through that, especially I would say intensely, even in these past 2 years in different ways, because it's been really intense and it's time to purge and release and even detoxify, you know, like we can't bring in what we want if we're full, we're cluttered, like so we can do that on every level too, in our house, in our body, in our relationships, in our information stream, because information, it doesn't mean you're full of information, doesn't mean you have, you know, brought it into knowledge, awareness, and then even deeper into wisdom, that you You embody it, you know it. It's there. That has filtered out everything else that is obsolete. So it's super important that we take the time to process the information and the food, and and to live in the sacred, to take the time, because we're in this society of like rushing against the clock. Or it's like, what is that too? What clock? Who invented the clock? Like, why are we on this rhythm? What is this time is money, reality, when in fact time is creation, is the creator, is appreciation, is gratitude, is love, is like all of this. So being careful that we're not always like rushing and eating and shoving it in our mouths, or like all of it. So that self-awareness, that self-love it's like integrating deeply the information, because everything is information. Food is information. What we're sharing right now is information. Tree is information. But how are you living this experience? Are you deeply in the moment, present with what is happening? Or are you always spinning into the next, the next, the next? Because that could look like you have a successful life, but I'm sorry, like you might have a breakdown because you're not able to stop. So we need to be careful of that. And I think even in the career and goals, and just find that balance too. It's like, yes, it's great to have goals and to be an achiever, but please, like, take the time to integrate your own truth, your own information through practices that, I'm a yoga teacher and breathwork teacher and all of that. And these are what in my classes, it's all about the breath and focusing. And when we come back to our breath, we come back to spirit. The spirit is the breath, and that is our true connection. So the food and the nutrition and all that, yes, you get into a flow where you start to know what's good for you, what's not good for you. There's not one size fits all. There's not one diet for everyone. Even though Purium can supplement and detoxify and give you that extra nutrition, I am totally grateful for that, because it makes it easy for us. If you don't feel like cooking and preparing and doing the whole big thing, you have your power shake and you know that you're getting replenished, and that feels amazing. But I
Absolutely.
wouldn't replace that with real organic food with the textures and colors, and you know what I mean? Like it's a supplement, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't replace true
No.
nutritional
Yeah.
organic food grown from a healthy soil. Like that's what,
Well, and that's, I think, why, Purium is so important, and why I believe that everyone's life can greatly be, everyone's health even can greatly be benefited by adding Purium, because Purium soil is like no other. And this day and age where, unfortunately, even when we are choosing organic, which is still the very best way, I believe, to safeguard our health and to create that optimal health, unfortunately, organic doesn't mean what it meant 100 years ago. And 100 years ago, food, you didn't. There wasn't this divide in our food where you could buy organic or not. Just everything was organic, right? And now our soils are not the same anymore, and so our food is not even being grown with the same nutrients. And then it's traveling in many cases halfway across the world before it arrives in your grocery store and you're buying it. And all those nutrients have been depleted along that entire time it was in transit. So this day and age, Purium is essential to everyone's life, because it goes to nourish you on the deepest level. Like cellular nutrition is, we are all walking around heavily depleted, and we are all in need of cellular nutrition. So I have so much gratitude to Purium for that. And a little tip, which I know I was shocked to hear when I first learned this, but do you know that when your mind is, let's say you are in a state of negative thoughts, right? And you're feeling overwhelmed, or, like we were talking about, a mom who is, rushing to put a meal together for her kids and then realizes she's got to eat something herself. And so she's rushing to put something together. You could, in that state, prepare the healthiest of organic meals, okay? The most, nutrition dense meal you can think of. And if you sit down to eat it in a state of any type of toxicity, negative thought processes, stress, overwhelm, anything like that, even negative self-talk just towards yourself, do you know that your body will not absorb 90% of the nutrients in that meal?
No,
A whopping 90%.
wow. So there you go. I mean, there again, that self-awareness and that, living in the present moment fully and not, that is, like the consciousness, basically, the more conscious you are, the healthier you are, because you're going to, in every moment, in every decision, in every meal, in every interaction, you're going to be aware about what you're thinking and doing. And it doesn't
So,
happen overnight, but it's a process, and yeah, it's a journey. And but we're here to assist, like you said, in our own unique ways, with a focus on definitely nutrition, but self-love, self-awareness, and all of it, the holistic way of, and then releasing what no longer serves. So doing some, shamanic journeying and ceremonies, and we lived for thousands of years with these ways of being, and we need to reclaim those. And I've been on that journey. I've gone on retreats. I've done so much of this, and I have so much to share, and that's why I have a program now, 90-day program, transformational, and it's going to start in January,
so
to assist
exciting.
people on their soul journey, basically, and to claim that for themselves, in 90 days. And with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and Bruce Lipton, and the biology of belief, and all of these amazing pioneers that have been ridiculed and rejected from even they had to go through that, because it's always like that, whenever you're here to overwrite the old paradigm, you will face, those that are resisting it. And that's the majority. That's 90% of the people that, right now in our society, that's also what's happening. And it's like, look, I trust my intuition, I trust myself, and I'm sorry that you don't at this stage, but that's not going to take anything away from me. You know what I mean? It's like, we have to be strong enough and courageous enough and brave enough to stand in our truth and to speak it and to say, I don't agree with this, and I'm going to align with what I do agree with. And when you do that, that's also where you're feeling this deep flow of energy and peace within you, and that's the Kundalini life force. That's the Shakti. That's the feminine deep wisdom that we have now. For me, I've claimed, and I embody it, and I'm not afraid to speak about it, because now it's like, it's time too. It's like, when you've blossomed into your essence, you need to share that, and you need to help others. And because the other is you, so you know that you're here. As long as we're suffering on this planet, we're going to come back to assist, right? And that's just what we we need to do. And then once you've healed and the others heal, then we're all, it's like it's spreading across our whole consciousness, and overriding the old. And so this is a big time for that right now. And it's like, when you're excited about your life and your mission and why you're here, and assistance, and and creativity, because Dakini, my friend Dakini, is on right now, and she's like, wow. And she's like the most expressive, like, I don't know, like dragon Shakti, creatrix that I've ever, one of the, artists. If you don't know her art, please go check out Dakini Agency. She's amazing. She's cosmic, galactic, with the biggest heart. And she does these creative, anyways, she's amazing. But just like, again, expressing that in any way or form that you came in to do. And when you do that, oh my God, you're excited about your life. So that's also super important with the self-love and the self-care, and like, get
Sure.
excited about your life and what you can contribute. Like, we can do this now. We're coming, and there's others. We're all in this together, and we're finding each other, and it's really fun.
I think it's so important to remember that the only limits that we truly have are the limits that we put on ourselves. They're
That's it.
self-imposed, oftentimes without even being conscious to it, right?
That's it.
It's really usually intertwined into our conditioning from childhood even. And I think that, yeah, it's so important. The body is interconnected, right? So you can do all the right things nutritionally. You can do the workouts, you can move your body every day. But if you're in the mindset's not right, if you're not feeding your soul, if it doesn't all come from self-love, well, then you're really only doing one part.
Right.
And no matter whether you're trying to rid yourself of one symptom, you want to, feel better after a diagnosis, you want to just optimize your health. No matter the reason, if you're only doing one piece of it,
Yeah.
you're never going to get that full result. The body truly is. That's why it's so important that we start to look at the body with all of its interconnected pieces, right? The mind, body, and
Absolutely.
soul,
Yeah.
and creating balance within those three parts. And that's how we get to optimal health and wellness.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that this is, yeah, the old paradigm was about separation and different parts and, and just trusting others and all of that, giving our power away basically. And now we're claiming it back and, you know, holistically, because that is the only way that we can be whole and complete. And, the word holy comes from being whole, complete.
Love
And
that.
and that's not from outside ourselves, but then it radiates outside, from as within, so without, as above, so below. So when we've merged also with our higher self, then the embodied, human avatar or personality is not, it's not that it's bad to have an ego, or it's just different. The ego that's striving in survival mode, and the higher self is two completely kind of different. Again, like the caterpillar and the butterfly, it comes from the same place, but somehow it's transformed so much that it's not the same thing anymore. But it at the essence, it came from that. So I think that in these times of ascension, new earth, that, like, we talk about this language, but this is what it means, is that we are ascending into higher frequency reality by making those choices. And a lot of it has to do with our food and the nutrition, and because we are biological beings, part of this planet, and we're part of every other being. So if there's still suffering, we need to look at that within ourselves and look at the choices we're making, if it's causing suffering in the world. And that includes even our clothes and everything, like being conscious that, like, to consume for, and I did that for a long time, because I when you don't make those connections, you're separate from it, but somehow you don't feel so good about. But the children now coming in, they know this. They're a higher consciousness, so they don't want to hurt. Yeah, and
Sure.
little children don't want to hurt animals. You don't want to. So we have to go back to that innocence, and to say, I don't want to hurt anybody anywhere. And I think the true humans that are going to continue on this planet are the ones that will be in the heart. These are prophecies too, that Greg Braden talks about. Any future human will be, heart mind coherence with the whole. So here we are, living it, being it, radiating it, and getting better and better every day.
Yes, yes. And I just want to, I think that's a great way to close, actually. And I'll just quickly add to that within that post that I was talking about with my son today about how, his high vibration and his, like, he's got like an innate understanding of wellness and how to achieve wellness, right? And same way that he looks at the world and he looks at everybody and he sees the good in everyone, and how he's inspired me, right, to see more good in the world because he just has this natural tendency to do so. And I talk a little bit about, the challenge that becomes for me as a mom to, now that I've recognized that, I'm so grateful that I'm in a place where I can recognize the beauty in those characteristics in him, and want to understand the importance of fostering that, right, and guiding it and letting it continue to bloom, rather than allowing, society and beliefs as a whole to squash it down, because that's so often what winds up happening. And as I was writing about that and saying, we have like so many areas working against us, right? The food industry and just, this new, like, this being bombarded with screens all the time. Kids always want to be on screens, and it's so readily available, and it's out there so much in their faces all the time. I started to feel a little like disempowered, and then I had to remind myself that no, you know we get to decide these things. And the very best way, again, that I can help guide and foster that more in my son is with self-love. I can't think of a more effective way than that. So
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for bringing in another beautiful avatar that's going to help expand our consciousness on this planet. I brought a little stellar being myself, and and we're just like, yeah, we're contributing in so many ways to, and we have to, congratulate ourselves, and that's the thing, not in a I'm so like beyond better than anybody else, but in a way that, honors our path that we chose as mothers, and in a way as bodhisattvas, because we're, as long, that's the thing, is you're here in service to help improve people's lives, and you're doing that already. And I thank you so much for all your service that you're doing here. It's very honored, and yeah, I think it's amazing. So thank
I
you.
think that we're doing on a spiritual level, educating. Like I said, every time we meet, I
Mhm.
learn so much from you, and I just think the work you're doing is so essential, especially right here, right now. So thank
Yeah.
you for doing that. And for anyone watching, Sonia, I'm sure you're gonna save this to your page so that people can go back and watch it and share it with whoever you think
I hope
they
I
want.
know how to do that because
When you press the X to end the video, it's going to give you the option to share. So click share and it's going to download for you and then you can post it.
okay, because I don't think I did that before, so I was like, oh, I think
Yeah,
it's done. It's like it's,
yeah, no, it
then
happened to me
again,
my first one
we
as well.
can't
I was
be
like,
too
oh
attached.
no,
We're so in the moment that if you
I
were
know.
here with us live, great, and if you're not, well, catch us the next time. But I
Next
will.
time.
I'll do my best to share it.
No worries.
Yeah,
No worries. But like you said,
technology.
either way, we'll be back.
We'll be back. We always come back. Okay. Bye,
Thanks.
Sherry. Talk
Thank
to you
you.
soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.